Every kid hears the same question. What do you want to be when you grow up? The problem is that the world they will enter keeps changing faster than the question assumes. Take Thomas, a bright child who once told an adult he would be a superhero, a baseball player, and the first man on Mars. By high school, he was working nights to earn top grades, convinced that the right college and career would secure his future. He chose visual effects design, mastered complex software, landed an entry-level studio job, and climbed several rungs until a new wave of AI tools did the same work in minutes and his position was cut. A solid plan can still evaporate when technology or markets jump ahead of it. Thomas's specialized skill, building digital assets frame by frame, was valuable the year he graduated. 5 years later, cheaper generative software left his role on the chopping block. The same pattern now appears in trucking, self-driving rigs, customer service, chatbots, and even law AI contract review. The details differ, but the underlying mechanism is the same. When a task becomes faster and cheaper to automate, the demand for people who perform only that task shrinks. Tying your whole identity to one future job is risky in a moving environment. Think of it like buying a phone that never receives updates. You may love it today, but sooner or later new networks will leave it behind. A career can age just as quickly. Here are 3 everyday checks that help keep that risk in perspective. Skills over titles. Thomas' eye for storytelling later helped him write a novel, even though his VFX title had vanished. Focus on abilities, clear writing, careful analysis, persuasive speaking that travel well between industries, multiple sources of meaning. When work collapsed, Thomas' friendships had thinned and hobbies were on hold. Balance paid efforts with relationships, health, and community so a layoff rattles your calendar, not your entire sense of worth. Regular reality checks. Once a year, ask, would my role still exist if the core task were automated? If the answer feels shaky, invest a little time learning adjacent skills or exploring new fields before a crisis forces the pivot. None of this says stop caring. It simply means aim for adaptability instead of a single permanent label. Ambition is still useful. It opens doors and motivates practice. Just hold it with a light grip, knowing that circumstances, not effort alone, often decide which doors stay open. So the next time someone asks a 6-year-old what they want to be, maybe the better follow-up is, what problems do you like solving right now? The answers will evolve, and that's the point. The instinct to choose a single, secure career is strong and understandable. People want clarity. Schools, parents, and employers often reward decisiveness, but here's a useful shift. It's not indecision to explore, it's preparation. New data backs this up. Studies of successful career switchers show that people who try different fields early, not just internships, but side gigs, certifications, or even hobbies, tend to navigate downturns better. They spot new trends faster and build confidence from varied experience, not just titles. Take Priya, who studied finance but also ran a baking blog in college. After years at an investment firm, she was laid off during a merger. Instead of starting from scratch, she leveraged her digital skills to launch a small online business. It didn't just replace her income, it gave her more flexibility and ownership over her time. That blog? It wasn't a distraction. It was a backup plan in disguise. Many growing fields don't even have fixed job titles yet. Think of climate analytics, synthetic biology, or virtual event planning, fields that barely existed a decade ago. The most valuable skill there isn't memorized expertise. It's the ability to learn fast, adapt tools, and communicate clearly with people from different backgrounds. So how do you practice that kind of adaptability? Try short, low-risk experiments. Join a coding boot camp, take a freelance gig, or volunteer for a different role at work. Small steps show what clicks and build confidence in learning. Keep a learning log. Every month, jot down one thing you learned outside your usual field. Over time, the pattern shows what genuinely interests you and where your skills might transfer. Stay in touch with curious people. Friends and mentors who explore new paths are more likely to pass along tips, tools, or job leads you won't find on LinkedIn. The old idea was to find your one true calling. The new reality? Most people build their future through trial, error, and pivoting, intentionally. Not because they failed to plan, but because they learned to update the plan. In a fast-changing world, the best long-term strategy isn't a fixed answer. It's staying open to better ones. Career stability is less about avoiding change and more about being ready for it. A recent study from the World Economic Forum found that over 40% of skills used in the average job are expected to change in just a few years. That doesn't mean you need to constantly reinvent yourself. It means you need a flexible way to keep learning without burning out. Think of learning as maintenance, not as a project you finish once. People who treat learning like brushing their teeth, routine, low pressure, daily, tend to adapt more easily than those who wait for a big career crisis. Watching a tutorial, reading an article, joining a workshop, it all adds up. You don't need a second degree. You need momentum. Your network matters more when you're not looking for a job. That's because weak ties, people you know casually, are often the ones who expose you to new opportunities. When you only talk to coworkers or classmates in your own bubble, you miss out on what's changing in other corners of the world. A former colleague who shifted into healthcare tech. A friend's cousin who works at a climate startup. These random connections become real leads when the time is right. To build those links, ask questions instead of pitching. People like being asked for advice. Curiosity is a better connector than a perfect resume. Share what you're learning, not just what you've done. When you post about a class you're taking or a mistake you learned from, others see you as engaged, not stuck. Give before you ask. Recommend a good article. Introduce two people. It builds goodwill before you ever need help. You are not your job title. You're a person with problem-solving ability, experiences, and interests that stretch far beyond one narrow label. A job might disappear. A company might fold. A plan might fall through. But those core traits, curiosity, flexibility, initiative, stay with you. That's the real safety net. Not a perfect career plan, but the ability to build again when plans change. So instead of asking, what do you want to be? Maybe ask, what skills are you building? What are you exploring? What's next? Even if you're not sure where it leads. In the 21st century, that's not drifting. That's how people move forward. Being adaptable isn't the same as being scattered. It's about learning how to shift without losing your footing. People often assume that changing paths means starting over from zero. But in reality, most skills carry over, just not always in obvious ways. Take someone who worked in retail for years. They might not think of that as tech experience, but they've dealt with difficult people, handled logistics, managed time under pressure, and explained complex return policies to stressed-out customers. Those are real, transferable skills. In a new setting, say a customer success role at a software company, those same abilities are often more valuable than knowing the software on day one. The trick is learning how to translate your experience. Don't just say what you did. Explain how it helped people, solved problems, or saved time. That shift in language can open doors that otherwise seem shut. No one is ever 100% ready. Waiting to feel fully qualified before applying to a job, starting a project, or changing direction can quietly trap you. In fast-changing fields, by the time you feel completely prepared, the opportunity may have already moved on. Instead, adopt what some call a test-and-learn approach. Apply to roles where you meet 70 to 80% of the requirements. Try small freelance or contract work in a new area before fully jumping in. Frame your resume or portfolio around problems you know how to solve, not just the tools you've used. Your goals will change, and that's a sign of growth, not failure. The version of you at 18 doesn't have to lock in the plans for 38. What matters more is how you respond when your interests, priorities, or the world around you shifts. If you once loved accounting but now feel pulled toward education, explore it. If you're in healthcare and curious about tech, shadow someone. If you feel stuck but aren't sure what to try next, follow your curiosity, books, people, events, until a pattern starts to emerge. No one can predict exactly where the job market will be in 10 years. But one thing is certain. Those who know how to adapt will always have options. So forget about choosing one perfect path forever. Instead, aim to build a career that evolves as you do. One choice, one skill, one conversation at a time. Your career isn't a straight line. It's more like a map with multiple routes. And that's a good thing. Sometimes your next opportunity doesn't look like a promotion. It looks like a detour. It might be a role in a smaller company, a project outside your comfort zone, or even a pay cut to gain a new skill. In the short term, it might feel like a step back. But long term, these pivots often lead to more durable growth than simply climbing the same ladder. Think about someone like Elena, who left a corporate marketing job to join a nonprofit. Her title was smaller, and the perks were fewer, but she learned new digital tools, led cross-functional teams, and discovered a passion for public health communication. 3 years later, she landed a leadership role at a healthcare startup. That early detour made her stand out. Downtime doesn't mean you're falling behind. If you're between jobs, recovering from burnout, or stepping away to care for family, you're still learning. You're managing time, solving new problems, adapting to pressure. Don't write those years off. They're part of your story, and they build resilience that employers increasingly value. Document what you learn, even during the quiet seasons. Whether it's a journal, a notes app, or a blog, keep track of projects, insights, or skills you're picking up. This makes it easier to speak clearly about your growth later. Define success in seasons. Sometimes success is expanding your skills. Other times it's preserving your health, deepening relationships, or rediscovering motivation. It's okay to shift your focus depending on your season of life. Ask better questions. Instead of, where should I be by now? Try, what do I want to learn next? What's still exciting to me? What would I try if failure didn't scare me? Because the truth is, no one's path is perfectly linear or always visible from the start. Most careers are built through a series of small bets, course corrections, and surprising breaks that only make sense in hindsight. So if you feel uncertain, you're not lost. You're exactly where most people begin to grow. Keep moving, stay curious, and trust that adaptability is more than a safety net. It's a strategy for building a life that stays meaningful, even as the world keeps changing. The way we think about work as a society is changing, and that affects everyone. For decades, the model was simple. Get trained, get hired, climb the ladder, retire. But that model assumed long-term stability, jobs that stayed the same, companies that stuck around, and economies that moved slowly. None of that holds true anymore. Today, most people will change careers, not just jobs, multiple times. Entire industries will shift or shrink in a single decade. Some of the most in-demand roles of 2035 haven't even been named yet. That sounds unsettling, but here's the upside. It levels the playing field. You don't have to be the most credentialed or the most connected. You just have to be one of the most adaptable. This shift is already visible in how employers hire. More companies now value potential over pedigree. They look for people who can solve problems, learn quickly, work across teams, and handle change. They know that even the best degree becomes outdated fast if someone can't grow with the role. So what does this mean for you? Your value is not fixed. You can grow it, incrementally, practically, over time. Every online course, mentorship conversation, cross-functional project, or mistake you learn from adds to that value. No path is wasted. Whether you spent years in hospitality, education, logistics, or caregiving, each role gave you human insight, discipline, and patterns of thinking that can transfer elsewhere. Career success is becoming more personal. For some, it's earning more. For others, it's flexibility, purpose, or time. The old one-size-fits-all definitions no longer apply. Uncertainty isn't always a threat. It can also be space to grow. When things aren't fully planned, you're free to notice new interests, test different directions, and adjust without shame. So if you're unsure, in transition, or rethinking your next steps, you're not behind. You're participating in the new normal. Keep learning. Keep adjusting. Build a life that reflects who you are, not just what the market once expected. Because in a world that's always changing, the people who do best aren't those with the perfect answer. They're the ones who keep asking better questions and are ready to follow where the answers lead. There is no final version of your career. You don't arrive at one perfect destination and stay there forever. Life doesn't work that way, and that's not a failure. It's just reality. What makes people thrive over time isn't locking in the right answer once. It's learning how to keep adjusting the questions. Planning is still useful, but flexibility is essential. Build a path, but leave room for edits. Every successful person you admire has changed course more than once. Your mindset is a skill. Just like learning to code or write clearly, learning to manage uncertainty, recover from setbacks, and stay open to new ideas is something you can practice and get better at. Long-term success is more about habits than luck. Staying curious, checking your assumptions, talking to people outside your field, taking small risks, those quiet habits often matter more than any single opportunity. You don't need to have everything figured out to move forward. You just need a next step that makes sense for now, and the willingness to keep learning after you take it. So if you're between things, unsure about your next role, or trying something new, keep going. Ask better questions. Take small actions. Reflect often. Talk to people who are building lives you admire, and borrow what works. Adaptability isn't about being ready for everything. It's about staying steady through anything. In a fast-moving world, that's not just a survival strategy. It's the foundation for a career and a life you can keep building no matter what changes next.